seen the sunshine since I don't know.
And welcome back. If you're stuck in Folsom Prison because you tried to get into your spouse's 401k plan without their knowledge, and then you fabricate not only the story, but you create documents and you lie to the government and on mortgage applications, you could go to prison. Steve Aledort, I was actually shocked by that. I can understand probation and all that, but that's a very severe, I don't know, 5 years sounds like a real long time to me. And this guy, Joe Giudice, got 41 months and his wife got 15 months. The judge was nice. She let Teresa Giudice do her 15 months while he watched the kids. I think they have like 4 kids. And then now I think he's still in prison right now. I mean, this is crazy.
It is.
All over fabricating their income, exaggerating income, and doing forged documentation on income and so forth on a mortgage application for them.
Yeah, it's, again, it's something we're not seeing now. It's something that we did see.
It was back in 2009.
So that was right after the implosion. So it still blows me away that they actually got away with it for a short period of time.
I'm doing that from memory. I could be wrong. It may have been earlier than that, but I believe it was in 2009, which I think was before the whole Bravo thing or just when the Bravo series was starting. But that's just fascinating to me that they would get slammed with that kind of a prison sentence. This other lady with the 401k thing, she got 5 years.
Well, what amazes me is, and I know I deal a lot of times with clients where the husband and or the wife, do all of the financing and the other spouse a lot of times doesn't get involved. But what concerns me is that if you're borrowing money from the 401k, you're going to get a statement once a month or once every 3 months. It's going to show that. So what may have happened is either that she hid those documents, or her husband wasn't even aware of taking a look at it.
He wasn't. He was totally misled by all this because evidently she must handle all of the finances. And there's a lesson to be learned there in terms of, if nothing else, have a financial advisor that you can meet with that can disclose everything that's going on, or at least open the mail.
Yeah, or sit down with your spouse every 6 months to be aware of what's going in, what's going out. What are your debts? What are your expenses? What's the income coming in? Not just for the fact that you don't trust the other spouse. That's not the point here. But I couldn't tell you how many times where I've received a phone call, and it's mostly from a wife. The husband passed away. I mean, years ago, husbands controlled all of the money and the funds and paying all the bills. And she had no idea how to pay bills, what her bills were. And so even if you have one spouse that is taking care of all of that, you absolutely want to get the other person involved in at least understanding what's going on, looking at the statements maybe every 6 months to know what you have in case something happens to your partner and you're not the one that's handling the financial affairs.
Steve Aledort, our lone financial planner here online with us. This is important stuff. And mortgage interest rates have been fluctuating lately, although in a fairly tight range. Steve, talk about this, because I was reporting earlier, on the potential for recession, but no, it doesn't look like we're going to have a recession, inverted yield curves and all this stuff. There's a lot of confusion out there.
There's stuff happening overseas as well where I think, I'm not sure exactly where in Europe where their bonds are going up. We're hitting a few levels, at least in the current time frame right now, where we're seeing potentially a pressure of interest rates to move up. So we've seen an increase in the last week and a half. I mean, the 10-year note, which is just kind of a baseline. It doesn't tell you exactly where interest rates are. It gives you a baseline of how they're moving. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, got down to as low as maybe 2.17. And as of yesterday, I think we were at 2.33. And then once it hits certain levels above a certain criteria that's set up by the market, that's where the chances that you get a little bit of a tumbleweed effect where you see the market start to either improve or go in the other direction as far as interest rates. Now, we've had a couple of days on the market where we've seen a little bit of improvement, but this is certainly not a time to sit back and wait thinking that rates are going to go down. If it makes sense to refinance, lock your rate in. If you're looking to purchase a loan, even if you think that values are maybe going to come down a little bit, if they come down but interest rates go up, that's an effect where you may end up paying more money on a mortgage payment, even if the value's down $10, $15, or $20,000 from 6 months or 8 months previous.
An excellent point. And people sometimes, get enamored with all the news out there, and the Trump story and the Russia influence and all that. And that may be artificially holding rates down, because if it proves not to be, when you look at the economic news that I just reported on, things looking pretty good out there.
It is. I mean, we're starting to get some reports that are good, maybe not as strong. We're getting, that not only the hints back, but the minutes from the Fed, where some people are still looking at, hey, we're seeing the growth we want, we may want to tighten. We have others saying, well, job growth isn't quite as strong as we think it should be. Maybe we should hold back on interest rates. So just like the market of knowing whether the bull market is going to end or continue, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and we just have to kind of sit back and play out what's going to go on.
Well, I think the best thing to do is to not sit back. The best thing to do is get a hold of Steve and get pre-qualified. If you're thinking about refinancing, either now or buying a home in the future, as we've talked many times in this program before, helping your kids get into a home. What Steve said is super compelling, because you can buy a lot more house with a 4% loan than you can with a 5% loan, right? So sometimes it's better to fix the rate, and even if you have to spend a little bit more for the house, that rate becomes more important than the price in many instances.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And talking about that, and we may not have time to hit the acronyms, but I had an interesting phone call yesterday. And we've talked about how I feel about the difference between a 30 and a 15-year loan. So I had done a 30-year loan for the borrower about 4 years ago. $270,000 loan. We had 3.75. Her monthly payment, I believe, was around $1,280 or $1,250 a month. That's her minimum required payment. Their goal is they wanted to pay off the property. So she's been making payments almost every month, not every month, but almost every month at $2,500. So she ended up calling up her servicer, the one that's handling her loan. She had a question. And the servicer said, well, why don't you think about going into a 15-year loan? And he proposed to her a 3.125 15-year loan, so 5/8 of a point lower than what she's paying right now, with a loan cost of about $6,700. And then she called me up and goes, Steve, I don't know if this makes sense. Can you break the numbers down for me? And here's what's really interesting, is on the new loan that they were proposing, she owed $221, about $6,700 in fees, so new loan amount would be $277.7. At 3.125, her new payment would be $1,586. If she kept her current loan at 3.75, again with a minimum payment of $1,250, but paid the payment at $1,586 as if she were getting the new loan, it would take, I believe, less than one more month.
Really?
To pay off the current loan and not have to go through the refinance and pay that $6,700. What's even more fascinating is because her goal is to pay the $2,500, if she paid the $2,500 on her current loan at 3.75, she would pay the loan off in, I think, 104 months. I'm sorry, 103.6 months. If she took the new loan, added the cost in, and paid the $2,500 per month, it would take her 104 months to pay it off. Totally not making any sense to do the 15-year loan. But if you look, the APR on that 15-year loan was 3.54%. The APR on the loan they did about 4 years ago was about 3.9%. It's not
It's not just the APR. That's fascinating.
So when you look at breaking down a mortgage loan, you look at cost, you look at return on money, you look at payback. Those are real important things that most people in my business don't understand or don't know how to easily explain to a client so that they understand.
I hope you understood that. Steve Aledort, loanfinancialplanner.com, 888-563-1070. You see, this is why we have Steve on the program, because he could have easily said, yeah, I can do that 15-year loan for you, put a couple grand in his pocket. But he said, no, it doesn't make sense, because he broke down the numbers.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve, for that. That's awesome. Steve Aledort, loanfinancialplanner.com. Take a quick break, come back with a business spotlight and emails. No business spotlight, but emails. Just that. Don't go away.